Hi, and welcome. You're listening to the X22 Report. My name is Dave, and this is episode 3799 AM. Today's date is December 18th, 2025. And the title of the episode is Trump's Parallel Economic System Just Destroyed the Central Bank Narrative. Next phase is coming. Let's talk about protecting our wealth. Retirement is getting harder to reach. Inflation and currency devaluation are eating away at our savings every year. That's why smart investors are turning to Bitcoin, not as a gamble, but as a global hedge backed by major funds, banks, and even government quietly stacking digital assets. After reaching an all-time high of 124,000 in October, Bitcoin has pulled back. Many see this as a perfect opportunity to invest before the next uptrend. When you invest with My Digital Money, you get US-based support and secure offline storage, so your crypto stays protected. You can even open a crypto IRA or roll over your existing 401k to enjoy valuable tax benefits. Don't let inflation steal your future. Protect and grow your digital assets today with MyDigitalMoney.com. MyDigitalMoney.com, smarter investing, safer storage, and better path to retirement. Let's get right into the economic collapse financial news. Now, the deep state, the corrupt politicians, the private West Central Bank, the World Economic Forum, you could see their entire narrative has just imploded. And do you think Trump set up the press conference last night where he talked about how the economy's doing and how great it is and all the jobs that are coming back and how inflation has come down and egg prices come down, fuel prices have come down? He timed it absolutely perfectly because the next day, what happened? Well, they reported what the inflation rate was. And everyone learned that the inflation came down almost in line with the Federal Reserve. And you have to remember, this is just a point in time when we talk about a 2% inflation, 1% inflation, 3% inflation. Inflation is cumulative, and we said it many, many times before. But I do believe this is showing the people of this country, the people of the world, that Trump's policies are working. And everything that the Fed has said, and everything the fake news and the financial pundits and everyone else, it was completely and utterly made up. They had no idea what they were talking about because, again, you're sitting in a central bank illusionary economic system. And yes, there are certain individuals to keep the illusion alive to make you think this is the way the economy is supposed to be run. And when you look at it, Trump's parallel economic system right now is destroying the central bank system. They don't even know how to compete with this because they can't. And this is what they were most afraid of from the very, very beginning. Actually, when we move into 2026, you know what you're going to see? You're going to see an economy that's going to take off like you've never seen before. Think about all the tax refunds. Think about the fuel prices going down. Think about inflation dropping even further. Think about getting your buying power back. This is going to spur economic activity like you've never, ever seen before. And you can see the central banks around the world, they're not going to raise the rates right now because if Trump is pushing the Fed to lower the rates, which I do believe he is, maybe not directly saying, lower the rates, which he was doing in the very beginning, but actually with everything taking effect, you could see they have no choice but to lower the rates. And when you look around the globe, you can see that Bank of England, they're cutting their rate to 3.75%. You see the EU, they're cutting their rates. Canada going to be cutting their rates. Everyone's going to be cutting their rates because, again, if the U.S. is cutting the rates, they have to cut the rates. And once again, what did they try to do? It looks almost like when Trump was in his first term and the Fed was raising rates and the rest of the countries were lowering rates. And Trump put a lot of pressure on the Fed and said, listen, everyone's lowering rates. Why are we raising rates? This makes no sense whatsoever. And all of a sudden, they put a freeze on it because he pushed and pushed and pushed. And then they started to reverse what they were doing. And did the other central banks, did they start to raise the rates? No, they didn't. They kept lowering the rates. So here we are once again. And you can see Trump is showing the people the way. And yes, it's going to get better. Actually, he timed this perfectly for the midterms. Because when people have more money in their wallets, when people feel good, when people say this is the right direction, that's how people vote. And you have to remember, going back to 2024, what was the number one issue? It was the economy. Border, I think, was second. So right now, Trump is going to show everyone we could make this economy absolutely perfect. And when you look at what's going on in New York City, there are a lot of vacant apartments. Now, remember, they have rent control there. They are bringing in illegals into the city. They still have illegals in the city. And basically, you could see that the entire system that they set up is not working. Peter Sayong says socialism at work. New York City has 50,000 vacant apartments because they need 100,000 renovations, $100,000 renovations, but rent is capped to keep them affordable. So they sit empty, which drives up all the other rents. It doesn't work. And yes, you might feel good because, look, I got cheap rent. But in the end, it doesn't work at all. And when you look at the initial jobless claims right now, they're showing no sign of labor market distress whatsoever. And you could see that with the jobs coming back to this country and more openings, yes, you're going to see the unemployment rate rise. Why? Because the central bank, they like to play this little trick called I'm going to manipulate the numbers. So those people that have been looking for a job under Biden for a very long time, and then when Trump took office, they're sitting on the sidelines, the American people saying there's no jobs out there. Why? Because all the illegals have them. Those people who are not actively looking because they gave up because there's just nothing out there, they're not counted on the unemployment rate. So if you have 1, 2, 3 million people sitting on the sidelines and they're not counted, the unemployment rate looks good because after something like 3, 5, 6, 7 weeks, and you stop looking or you're still looking, well, they don't count you. And when there's job openings and you say, you know what? Hey, wait, there's a lot more job openings now. Now I'm going to start to look. All of a sudden, you're bringing those people that were sitting on the sidelines now into the employment arena, and now they're going to count them. So if you do this, you're going to see the unemployment rate start to move up, which means there's a lot of job openings. You see, it's the way they trick the people. So when you look at it, they can use it against anyone that's going against the central bank system, which Trump is. So if he has... Now, we've all seen the headlines that talk about Ozempic and similar miracle weight loss shots. But what most people don't realize is this. A major analysis just found out that people who stop taking these weight loss injections gain nearly all their weight back within a year. That's the catch. These drugs only work while you're on them. They're expensive, and the moment you stop, your body fights back. This is why I like BioTrust GLP-1 Elevate. And everyone is obsessed with the weight management results I've seen with it. It helps my body naturally trigger the same hunger-controlling, craving-reducing signals that Ozempic would, but without needles, prescriptions, or the scary side effects. It also promotes fullness, helps reduce hunger hormones, supports fat loss instead of muscle loss, and helps maintain healthy blood sugar levels. For a limited time, you can grab a bag of BioTrust GLP-1 Elevate for 40% off only at trimwithx22.com. Plus, you'll also receive a 60-day satisfaction guarantee and free express shipping on subscriptions. Once again, go to trimwithx22.com to get this deal now, or just click the link in the description. 2 million job openings and 2 million people are looking for jobs. All of a sudden, they're back on the employment lookout. So they're going to be counted. So you might see unemployment go all the way up to 6% because now they're looking for a job. And of course, the fake news is going to use this and say, oh, look at this. Trump has caused 6% unemployment. But in reality, the reason why this is happening is because all the jobs are opening up and now people are going to start to take jobs. So what's going to happen is you're going to see a little bit of a bump and then it's going to come straight back down. And they're going to try to use this against him. Is it going to work? Absolutely not. This will be a temporary thing. And in the end, it will not work whatsoever. But you could see the inflation numbers came out and it looks like all these people were absolutely shocked. And were we really shocked? I don't think so whatsoever. EJ Antonio, PhD, put this out and said, inflation since January of this year is now running at an annualized rate of 2.2%, closing in on the Fed's target. Absolutely. Now, remember, this is just a point in time. It's the annual rate. It's not the cumulative rate, which is something like 3,000%. But again, the only way to get rid of that is to start to pay back the Fed. And Geiger Capital says, CPI year over year 2.7 versus 3.1 expectations. CPI core year over year 2.6 versus 3.0% expectation. Excuse me, I was told by the news that tariffs would cause a massive inflation shock. Actually, the opposite is going to happen, and we see it right now. Actually, what really causes inflation is the central bank. The deep state players in line with the central bank, they're the ones who cause it. Because if you put it, for example, if you have a state and everything is stable and the state decides to put a 3% sales tax on all the items, Is that actually inflation? Would you count it as inflation? See, inflation is the devaluation of the currency. So when Trump says, I'm going to place a fee on all these products coming into this country, it's not actually inflation. It's a fee to you're allowing the countries to sell their products in our country. It doesn't really add to inflation continually. Actually, most of the time, you won't even see it. Why? Because the tariff is added on the first wholesaler. So it might be pennies, and you're not even going to notice that. Then it goes to another wholesaler. And then eventually it comes to the U.S. where it's already taken care of. So most of the time, the fee is already taken care of on the back end. And on the front end, they're not going to add to their products because they have to compete with those products that are being made in this country. And that's why you're not seeing what the fake news told you were going to see, all the financial pundits said you were going to see. The inflation that you're experiencing now, where people are feeling that hangover, that is left over from the Biden administration because, again, it's cumulative. It doesn't go away. So, yes, Trump can bring the inflation down from Biden's 4.5% down to 2.5, 2.6, 2.4, 2.2%. But all he's doing is he's slowing the inflation during that year. And we used this example before. So during Biden's time, if someone weighs 150 pounds and during Biden's administration, you put on 100 pounds, you weigh 250. And then when Trump comes in, he says, okay, we're not going to be putting on 100 pounds anymore. We're only going to be putting on 3 pounds. Well, does that 100 pounds disappear? No, it doesn't. It stays there. You just slowed the weight gain. Now Trump, in the next phase, which we're coming up to, he's going to start to reverse everything the central bank has done. And you could see that what this really means is he's going to give the buying power back to the people. That's what you're going to experience. And during this whole time, as he's slowing inflation, he's also bringing fuel prices way, way down, which actually cuts the cost of delivery, of production. It doesn't get rid of the inflation, but it eases everything. The inflation, the value of the currency, which has declined over a long period of time since 1971 when we came up with the gold standard, that just doesn't go away. But he can actually mitigate it by lowering the fuel costs and actually giving back the people from their taxes and making it so you don't have to pay taxes. Trump can do all of that. So think about that for a second. Because again, if he just got rid of income tax right now, what would happen? The entire system would just implode. So he can't do that. He has to do it step by step by step by step and wean us off of the system while he's pushing wages up. E.J. Antonio, PhD, put this out and said, earning growth has outpaced inflation this year, and the average American's weekly paycheck now buys 1.6% more than in January after falling 4% under Biden. What a difference a president makes. So basically, he's given people their buying power back, and he's not going to stop there. We have a lot more work to be done, but I do believe this is just the beginning. And as we go through 2026, you're going to see something that's going to change everything. Now, of course, the fake news is trying to convince you that, inflation is just cooling unexpectedly. We have no idea how this happened. It just happened. It just, all of a sudden, it just did it. We don't know. No, that is not the case whatsoever. This is one of those headlines where they try to convince, and by the way, that's coming out of the Washington Post. They just try to convince you that it just happened out of nowhere, had nothing to do with Trump. But when you look at it, you could see it came from what? Getting rid of waste, fraud, abuse in the government, slashing costly regulations across all sectors of the economy, and ending green new scam energy policies in favor of drilling for oil. And basically, you could see that this is what allowed us to basically remove everything that the Biden/Obama administration has done, what the Fed has done. And this is going to actually accelerate now. I do believe at this point in time, Trump has built the foundation. Now he's going to be building on top of that. And this is where you're going to see the refunds. This is where you're going to see lower fuel prices. This is where you're going to see your buying power come back. And I do believe as we go throughout the year, getting closer and closer to the midterms, you're going to see that people are going to be so happy. Interest rates are going to come way, way down. Again, Trump is returning the buying power back to you. And think about it. This entire time, what is Trump doing? He's basically destroying the Federal Reserve, destroying their narrative, destroying their system. And people are saying this tariff system is really good. Let's keep doing this. And look what Trump did. He made an announcement last night where he's going to be giving the troops $1,776. Now, this is going to be a bonus, a dividend, and this is not stimulus. So basically, it's a very interesting number that he picked, which is 1776. And this is going to allow the military to make ends meet because, again, this is quite a bit of money for a lot of those individuals in the military. Now, of course, the fake news is trying to say it's not that much money, but it actually is. If you're making 30, 40, 50, 60, 70,000, I would like $1,776 tax free. Think about it for a second. So right there, Trump now is giving back to the people, and the people of this country are going to receive a dividend. If you notice, he doesn't say, hey, we're going to give stimulus. We're going to borrow the money and then give it to you. This is all coming from the tariff money. Now, it might be directly or indirectly. The dividend is coming from the tariff money. The money that he's giving the soldiers, I do believe that's coming from the one big beautiful bill. But again, he has the money in the tariff system to back that up. So he's not really worried about that right there. But if you look at what Trump has done and you look at his speech, you could see that he did this on purpose because once again, he wants to show people, look what we're doing here. We're turning this gigantic ship. It turns slowly, but we're turning it. And once we turn it all the way around, we're going to actually put it into drive and we're going to move forward at lightning speed. Cynical Publius put this out and said, if you voted for and believe in Trump, you should believe he has known what he has been doing economically for the past 11 months. The economy is like an aircraft carrier. It takes a long time to turn it around. I believe Trump had a plan the moment he took office. Tariffs to create fair trade, reduced income tax, gutting the green energy scam, promoting investment in American manufacturing, reducing the federal bureaucracy and eliminating crippling regulations, deporting illegal aliens and eliminating the free stuff we taxpayers give them, getting the Fed on board, etc. But the plan needed time enough to make the economy shine come the midterms. Now we will start to see the fruits of that plan. And Trump's speech tonight is to announce that. Is he right? One thing I've learned is to never bet against Trump. Maybe he is wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. But I still have trust. And I do believe if you start to look at everything that Trump is doing right now, you could see that this goes far beyond just the midterms. Yes, the midterms are very, very important, but this goes far beyond this. This is about competing with another system. He has a people system on one side. He has the central bank on the other side. The central bank is a debt system. The parallel economic system is an income system. The central bank system creates inflation. Every time you borrow the currency, you put more currency into circulation, it creates the inflation. The central bank system creates corruption because people have an open-ended credit card and they can borrow and borrow and borrow, and there's no accountability whatsoever. Nobody cares where the money goes. Nobody keeps track of the money. Nobody cares. And the central bank system, every time we borrow the currency, well, the only way to recap the interest that's attached to this is to have the people pay for it. So the central bank system goes internally into the country, just like it's going internally to the employees, and they're taking the money from the employees. So basically you're getting paid, and then the Federal Reserve is taking their cut. So it's like a corporation. If you're working for a corporation, here's your $50,000 salary, but you owe me $25,000. People would go, that's not fair. Why am I doing this? If anyone was put in that situation, I don't know if they'd keep that job. Well, we got to keep the company running. That's how it works. No, what you do is you take income from the outside and you bring it into this country. So Trump's parallel system works the opposite way. currency comes into this country. It's not new currency. No inflation is created. Beautiful. And since it's not borrowed and there's no interest attached, the people don't have to pay it back because it's not borrowed money, which means Trump and team, they don't have to take anything from you. Actually, with the amount of money that's coming in, they will give the people money. It's a very, very different system because that's an income system. The central bank is a debt system. Two different systems. And I think now people are starting to see this very, very clearly. So this is much, much larger than just, hey, let's get a couple dividends. Let's give the troops some money. Yes, there's a reason for it all. But again, the overall picture, when you start to look at this and you step back and you take that 40,000 foot view, you see that, wow, I see where he's going with this. He's going to remove the central bank system. He's going to remove the debt system. He's going to put us on an income system. And he's going to do exactly what the founding fathers wanted, going all the way back in time. He wanted people to keep their property. He didn't want the founding fathers didn't want people paying taxes on their property because if you go back in time, they knew what that was like. They actually fought a war against that because, again, when you lived in England at the time, you had to pay the king, you had to pay the queen. They taxed your property over and over and over. And if you didn't pay your taxes, what happened? They took your property. If you look here in the United States, they went back to that system, but they tricked everyone. And everyone just went along with it. The founding fathers, they fought with their lives, with their wealth, with their families. So that would never happen. Because when you purchased a property or anything, they didn't want anyone taking it away from you. They wanted you to keep it. It's yours. You own it, not the government. Nobody could tax you on any of these things. But this is what happens when a central bank system comes into focus. And this is what happens when you have a corrupt system. And now Trump is removing all of this. And I do believe he will get it done. Listen, everyone, thanks a lot for listening. Be well, be safe, and especially be prepared. Thanks a lot.